A finance server starts making outbound connections at 2:13 a.m. Nothing fires on user login rules because no human logged in. A service account that normally runs one payroll task now touches 3 file shares it has never touched. A printer begins talking to an internal database subnet. Each event looks small by itself. Together, they say one thing: your monitoring is too user-focused. UEBA can help, but only if the E really means entities, not just employees. UEBA stands for User and Entity Behavior Analytics. Plain English, it learns what normal looks like for people, accounts, devices, servers, and other assets, then flags behavior that does not match. A beginner should say it this way: UEBA compares current activity against expected behavior for that specific entity and its peer group. In a NIST-style security program, it supports continuous monitoring and detection. It does not replace identity controls, endpoint tools, or logs. It uses them. The important word in this episode is entity. An entity can be a laptop, server, printer, service account, application account, container host, or workload identity. Before entity-aware UEBA, many SOCs live on static rules: failed logins over a threshold, admin group change, malware alert. Those are useful, but they miss slow behavior changes. Service accounts are a classic gap. They are powerful, long-lived, and often excluded from normal user reviews because teams assume they are just automation. Devices create the same problem. A server talking to another server may look routine unless you know that these two servers never communicate. IoT devices and printers are worse. They are noisy, poorly understood, and rarely owned by one team. UEBA gives defenders a way to ask, is this normal for this exact entity? Mechanically, UEBA starts with data. Authentication logs, endpoint events, network flow, DNS, cloud audit logs, directory data, and asset inventory all matter. Next, it builds baselines. When does this service account run? Which systems does this server usually contact? What DNS names does this printer resolve? Then it compares behavior to the entity's own history and to similar entities. A domain controller should not be compared to a kiosk. After that, it assigns risk. One odd event may be low. 5 weak signals across identity, device, and network can become high priority. Finally, it sends context to analysts, often through the SIEM, case management, or alert queue. Here is a common SOC story. A backup service account normally authenticates from one job server between midnight and 1 a.m. It reads from a defined set of file servers. On Tuesday, UEBA marks 3 changes. The account authenticates from a different server. It reaches a file server outside its normal scope. The source host also begins resolving external domains it has never used. No single signal proves compromise. The risk score rises because the entity changed in multiple ways at once. The analyst checks the job schedule, owner, and change ticket. No approved change exists. The team disables the account, isolates the source server for investigation, and rotates secrets tied to that workflow. The strength of UEBA is pattern memory. It notices when a boring system stops being boring. It can catch service accounts with new behaviors, servers beaconing at odd hours, devices talking to systems they never touch, and peer group outliers. It also helps prioritize. Analysts do not need one more raw alert. They need a reason to care. But UEBA has limits. It does not know business intent unless you feed it asset data, owners, and change records. New environments create false positives. Poor log coverage creates blind spots. A high-risk score is not a guilty verdict. It is a ranked lead for investigation. Think of UEBA as the behavior layer across the defensive stack. The SIEM collects and correlates events. UEBA adds baselines and risk scores around entities. IAM tells you what an account is allowed to do and whether access changed. EDR shows what happened on an endpoint or server. Network detection shows communication patterns between systems. Asset inventory tells you what the entity is and who owns it. The best workflows cross-reference all of these. A UEBA alert on a service account should pull identity permissions, recent changes, source device health, destination server role, and network flow history into one investigation view. Start small. Do not try to model every object on day one. Pick high-value entities, privileged service accounts, domain controllers, backup servers, file servers, cloud admin identities, database servers, VPN infrastructure, and unmanaged device segments. Build a clean owner map. Every service account needs a business owner, technical owner, purpose, source systems, target systems, and expected schedule. Feed change records into the review process so approved maintenance does not waste analyst time. For skills, learn identity basics, log sources, network flow, asset classification, and alert triage. A good beginner exercise is simple. Explain why this entity's behavior is unusual in 2 sentences. Recap in 3 beats. First, the E in UEBA matters. Entities include service accounts, servers, printers, IoT devices, workloads, and applications, not only human users. Second, baselines expose behavior change. Odd-hour beacons, new server-to-server paths, unusual service account access, and devices reaching systems they never touch. Third, entity risk scoring helps the SOC focus on the combinations that deserve time now. Use UEBA as a detection and prioritization layer, tied to your SIEM, identity data, endpoint telemetry, network visibility, and asset inventory. If this helped, subscribe. New episode daily plus the daily ranked CVE brief on this channel.